What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Kick-Ass Podcast. I am so happy you're back here today. We will be reviewing, of course, the WWE Clash at the Castle pay-per-view (PLE) that occurred in the UK, Wales, Cardiff. Of course, the attendance ended up being, I think they said like 62,000, close to 63,000. So insane turnout. I think they were hoping for 70,000, but man, like that turnout is insane. And I think there's Triple H had already mentioned that fans had flocked to Wales from over 42 different countries, which is wild again. But guys, again, thank you so much for tuning in today. We will be covering strictly the Clash of the Castle pay-per-view here today. Tomorrow we will be back, of course, to cover All Out and have a separate and single show just for that. Hopefully, depending on time frames and if I'm able to watch it live or at least at some point tomorrow. I'd love to be able to review NXT's Worlds Collide pay-per-view PLE. So hopefully we'll be able to get to that too, because that is supposed to be a pretty stacked show, and I love the energy and the momentum and just the things that they've been doing over there in NXT. And I think that the trickle-down effect for the new creative regime and the creative takeover that we've been seeing on Raw and SmackDown, I think that's finally going to end up making its way to NXT. And I think the past 2 weeks or so, we've definitely started seeing signs of that. So hopefully we'll be able to review that, or if not a full review show, definitely speak on that next time we get a little more of a variety show recorded for you guys. But with all that being said, we will get right to the card itself. And first of all, the whole show, going into it, I didn't see the kickoff show. I ended up going to the store right beforehand, so I tried to watch some of it on my phone. But I wasn't able to see the entire kickoff show itself. But man, like when I just looking at the arena itself, the setup, the electricity, the vibe, just the excitement of the fans there, and of course, especially with it being 30 years since they've had a show, period, or at least a show to this caliber over in Wales specifically, and in the UK, it's a big deal. So, or maybe not the UK, but it's, at least in Wales. So I love the vibe and the feeling and the callback that they did throughout the show as well. It was so dope being able to see Bret Hart and seeing that Bret Hart was physically there in the arena and watching the PLE or the event itself. So very, very cool to see him there. Even something like that, maybe he would be, but you wonder if a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, if Bret Hart would have been in the arena, right, in attendance, or if he would have wanted to be. I'm not sure what his relationship is. Although I think it recently, or a few months ago, rather, they had stated that he had signed a new Legends deal with WWE, and I think that was part of the reason why he couldn't show up for the Owen Hart tournament over in AEW. So if I'm not mistaken, I think that may have had something to do with it. So I guess it maybe shouldn't be as surprising. Maybe he still would have been there regardless, but either way, it was so cool to see him there. And I loved seeing the tribute that they have in the recap video that they had with Davey Boy Smith and Bret Hart, of course, the match at SummerSlam in '92, because that was just such a banger. The word of the year, it seems. There's been so much talk about that word, the banger, and then the word dope. I'm very, very guilty of using the word dope, which you guys have probably heard on the pod. So with that being said, though, I love the throwback to history. I love the acknowledgement of history, and I love the change, guys. It's just little things like that may not seem like a big deal, especially if you're more of a casual fan or just someone who turns in for like the big events. You may not care as much, but for me personally, like I love the tie back. But with that being said and all out of the way, we started the show off with the 6-woman tag match: Bianca Belair, Asuka, and Alexa Bliss facing off against Damage Control, which is officially their name now. They have brand new entrance music, which was pretty cool to hear, and it seemed like Bayley was really enjoying it herself. It looked like Bianca was too. She was kind of like bopping in the ring a little bit, and I just love seeing like little moments like that. Like Bianca's one of those characters specifically too that I wish she. And that we probably will see that going forward, but I wish she had a little more creative freedom, because I think she just has so much charisma and just so much just like pent up and just so much inside of her. And I think there's like a whole another, like a complete 180 side of her that we haven't seen. And not even necessarily like, I'm not even saying like, oh, in a heel way, just like the babyface side of her times like 10, you know what I mean? So I think that's something that hopefully we'll see in the next few weeks, or at least maybe within the next month or so coming. And I think maybe if she what it looks like is probably going to be happening with the ending and the outcome of the match, which we'll get to here in a second. Maybe she'll actually have the opportunity to kind of dig in a little bit deeper and just kind of explore more in the promo route and just kind of get a feel and just have a little bit more freedom in that route. So we'll see, but that's just a hope that I have specifically. But with that being said, the match itself was very, very good. There was, I guess, some moments I remember. Shout out to ProWrestling.net for their transcription. Going off of their reporting here, I'm not good, guys. I first of all, like, I never claimed to be a wrestling journalist. I'm not a journalist or anything like that, which is or anything. So I just stick to reviewing the show and just kind of going off of what I feel. So with that being said, like that's why I don't try to go match by match or move by move breakdowns. Right when I'm watching the show, I'll make notes and stuff like that, like little notes that or like little moments that really stick out to me. But like I don't, I if I tried and I tried when I went to actually an event in person, I tried to take a full like rundown report of the show so I could send it into a website. And I did, but it just really took the enjoyment out of it for me. So like kudos and shout out to all you guys and reporters who can actually do transcriptions of the match live as it's happening and still get enjoyment out of it, because man, I can't. My brain is not built that way. Maybe if I actually tried, and practice a little bit more, but whatever. But with that being said, I wanted to give credit to the information that I'm reading off of and kind of going off of here. But the match itself, I think, was really good. And I think the whole purpose of it, obviously, was to set up the feud going forward. And which is why I was still so perplexed going into the match with the fact that Io Sky and Dakota Kai didn't win the tag team titles on Raw, right? Like, it would have made so much more sense, you would think, to have them win the tag titles and then move on to Clash at the Castle, pick up the victory here, which they ended up doing. Spoiler-ish alert, not really, it's a review show, but skipping ahead. Damage Control, which I guess I got to get used to calling that now, which is a pretty cool name. Kind of makes sense too for what their mission was coming into this and what it appears to be as it's kind of unraveling week by week. But you would have kind of thought that, okay, like their first mission was to take over the tag team division and to win the tag team titles, get that, knock that check mark off, go into the Clash of the Castle PLE, get this victory here over the Raw Women's Champion, right? And then over someone like Asuka, who is a legend, I would say, in her own right, and I think is definitely a future Hall of Famer in WWE, which is crazy to think about. I heard someone else mention that the other day, and I was like, what? And it kind of caught me off guard. I was like, damn, like, yeah, I guess she, think about how long she's been here. Again, I don't see her retiring like anytime soon, but we are kind of getting to that route and kind of seeing the rotation in the next cycle of like a lot of like Asukas and Bailey, and Sasha Banks, and like a Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, like, and just focusing on the women's division right now. But just seeing kind of women wrestlers at that caliber and at that stage in their career, kind of thing like, oh wow, like, and it kind of goes back into the mindset of, and when you kind of like take a step back and look at things, it's like, okay, yeah, like it makes sense because Bailey is teaming up with Dakota Kai and Io Sky and kind of mentoring them and kind of building them along. So 3, 6, however many months from now, when they end up breaking up or whatever may have you, they'll be that much further along and have that much more experience and that much more comfort on the main roster, because it is a big difference between NXT and Raw or SmackDown. So I think everything has its own evolution in its own time, but it's just kind of crazy to think that we're at that stage now. But yeah, with that being said, like I think this match, it kind of, like I was saying earlier, it played its purpose, right? And it set up the next stage in the feud, which, even though yes, Dakota Kai and Io Sky didn't win the tag titles, it sets up the next layer of Bailey going forward and having a claim to challenge Bianca Belair for the women's championship. I'm going to say tag team championships. But for the women's title, right? And the next pay-per-view that they have, I believe, I forget the date, but it was definitely sometime in October, which is WWE's Extreme Rules pay-per-view in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which I so wish I could go. Maybe if I can get some time off. I love Philadelphia. I have family in Philly. It'd be an excuse to go up there. I'm trying to look at the date here. Not that it really matters. I know it's sometime in October 8th. Yeah, at the Wells Fargo Center. Man, it's right there. But I think that would be, and part of me wonders if you want to have their first match as an Extreme Rules match, and maybe we don't know the exact layout of the Extreme Rules card yet, if every match is going to be Extreme Rules or if it's going to have like different stipulations for each match or things like that. But that obviously is our next pay-per-view going forward, so PLE going forward. So we'll see what Triple H has in mind too, and we'll see what his regime wants to do going forward with like these quote themed pay-per-views and PLEs. I was doing so well with the PLE pay-per-view thing. I don't know, but I think my excuse going and my scapegoat for this weekend at least is the fact that All Out is tomorrow, and I need to purchase that, and that's what I'm going to be doing after this. So that being said, guys, again, this match was it was good, it was okay, but I think I'd be remiss if I moved on without saying the best part of this entire segment was the beginning of the match before it even really began. The crowd was infatuated with Bayley, and they were just serenading her with cheers, just singing to her, and she was doing everything in her power, bless her heart, to get them to stop, and they just wouldn't. They just loved them some Bayley. So, and again, maybe I was gonna try to keep this like a little shorter of a show, but you guys know how I am about tangents. But I think the only thing that I'm kind of missing right now is the opportunity to really cheer Bayley, right? Like of course we got that moment at SummerSlam when she made her return, but we didn't really get a chance to cheer her and appreciate her. And I guess maybe we did, but like extend it or at least have that one moment on Raw or SmackDown. Yes, after the initial shock of like your return on SummerSlam, for instance. Like of course you're gonna get like a big response, but we didn't really get the opportunity and we weren't allowed, right? Like to just embrace Bayley's return. Because before she left on her injury, like she technically was a heel, but she was just getting so much praise and so much love. And her and Sasha Banks were some of the MVPs in the Pandemic and Thunderdome era. They just did so well. And I think Bayley really developed more. It developed and kind of got more comfortable in this heel role, right? And I think it was kind of like a blessing in disguise, the Thunderdome setting for her. And it just like Francis, like her and Michael Cole just going at it, I fucking love. And I still enjoy seeing her play into it and still saying how much she can't stand Michael Cole and how she yells at him at ringside. So I'm a huge fan of Bayley, if it's not obvious at this point. And I'm happy that she got the pinfall victory here on Bianca Belair. I think it's a good excuse or just a good excuse to set up a feud going forward. With that being said, though, the next matchup that we had on the card, which was one that I was so looking forward to going into it, which was Gunther versus Sheamus for the Intercontinental Championship. First of all, we got Giovanni Vinci debuting technically on the main roster. So now Imperium is complete, guys, and I was kind of wondering if they were going to address it, but Kaiser did before we even had to wonder for too long, and Imperium is back. It was such a beautiful return. And kind of skipping ahead a little bit, I love the fact that, because of course, obviously, we all know, right, Walter, or who Gunther really was, Walter, back in NXT. So, but we can't obviously call him Walter. But I love that Michael Cole, when the fans were chanting Walter's name later on in the actual match itself, Michael Cole mentioned that the fans were acknowledging Gunther's past or something to that effect, and I just loved that simple phrase and this simple callback again to history, right? And I think, and I'll pause right here and I will take some time to shout out Michael Cole again. Like I have heard him getting his praise since he's had more freedom, right? And this whole regime has taken over. But man, like he's completely different. Like he's done a complete 180 on the I'm still on the mic. Well, I guess technically he's on the mic, but on commentary, and it makes you think and it makes you kind of sad. It's like, damn, like if you think back to, for me personally, like one of my favorite commentary duos was Taz and Michael Cole. For whatever reason, I just loved them as a duo. I loved the dynamic, and Taz was just always so fun and just so underrated on commentary. And I guess he is getting more of a more opportunity, and he's more of a stays on commentary on AEW now. So, but man, like I just think like back to those days, like if things weren't always so handcuffed, and even your JRs, right, in the WWE land, like just thinking if they had more freedom, just the freedom that they have right now, how much more fun it would have been, and just how different it would have been. But I just had to give Michael Cole praise and some love to him, because he he's been doing work, man, and he makes you enjoy watching it, and he makes you feel the fun, and feel the excitement and the joy, especially out of nights, or nights over there, days like today. So yeah, so shout out to Cole. Shout out to Cole. It kind of sucked not having McAfee there, but it's to be expected. And I don't think McAfee would have gone all the way over there with his schedule right now. Or maybe he would have. He probably just doesn't have time. But this match itself, the beating that Sheamus took in this match, guys, is a different level. Like, I don't even know the final count of chops that he sustained on his chest. It was just, it had over 25, 30, probably easy. I don't know how Gunther's hand, Walter's hand and arm doesn't fucking burn after doing all that. It's like, bro, like, you're like, it's just unreal, unbelievable what these guys go through, and the damage and the impact that Gunther can inflict. But man, shout out to Sheamus and just the love that he was getting from the fans here in the crowd. I think that if they would have pulled the trigger and put the title on Sheamus, he would have gotten a massive response. Probably, maybe not to the effect that Drew would have gotten, but up there, up there. And it's crazy to kind of mention this, but at one point during this match, because there was one fall when I was thinking, oh man, like they're gonna Sheamus might pull it off here. I had a quick flashback to WrestleMania 20 when Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit won their respective championships, and the moment that they had after that, when they were able to hold the championships up at the end of the night and just celebrate in Madison Square Garden, it was such a feel good moment for them. And part of me was thinking, like, man, like, are they gonna go that route? Are they gonna have Sheamus win the Intercontinental title here, move on later to the main event, have Drew win the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship, have that big moment, then have Sheamus come back out, have them both embrace in the ring? Because at this point, we know the long history between Sheamus and Sheamus and Drew at this point, right? It's kind of like your Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. They have been best friends, they've been opponents, and kind of like brothers, right? It's kind of like that person in your life where, like, only you can talk shit to them or about them or anything like that, or like, like, fuck with them, right? And no one else can, only you. So I think part of me was like, man, like, are we gonna get that? Which obviously we did end up getting. Sheamus did not pick up the victory here. Gunther did end up picking up the pinfall victory in about 19-ish minutes, 19 and a half minutes. But the physicality, it just speaks for itself. Sheamus's chest, he had, you could already see a bruising, I believe, on the right side, or maybe it was the left side. He had a scrape on it. It was just next level. It was everything we expected it to be, but I didn't expect it to be so close, and so close at the end, and so believable too. Like, going into it, I kind of expected Gunther to retain here because I think there's a lot more, and the story is kind of just beginning for him as the champion. But man, like, I think this kind of accomplished both. I think it solidified Gunther as a badass and as kind of like the next Sheamus going forward on the main roster. And I think in a lot of ways it may have propelled Sheamus in the babyface role. And I think it might have been exactly what he needed. Not that he necessarily needed anything, but exactly what he would have needed to turn and to embrace the good side again. So yeah, and I think it could just be a maybe like a trickle effect for the rest of the guys, for Ridge Holland and for Pete Dunne or Butch, whatever they continue to call him going forward. Excuse me, guys. But with that being said, we will move on here. And again, just to confirm, again, Gunther did retain the Intercontinental Championship, which I did say there, but I wanted to just kind of wrap that neatly back up for you guys. But man, looking forward, and like I said, going forward to, very curious to see who the next champion, or the next challenger rather, is going to be for Gunther. I don't see them going right back to Sheamus so soon. I don't think. I don't know. I think this was kind of it for now. So that being said, moving on, Liv Morgan and Shayna Baszler had the unfortunate task of trying to follow up that match. I did not envy them at all. But of course, Liv Morgan came out as your SmackDown Women's Champion to face off against Shayna Baszler. This match was pretty good. I think I was expecting a little bit more physicality. I don't know. I think I was expecting. I don't know. I don't really know what I was expecting. Maybe I'm just being a little ridiculous there, but I think maybe just more viciousness from Shayna. I don't know what I think it's a Shayna. Shayna Baszler there, but I think this is kind of going to be a slow burn for her gaining her dominance going back. At least I hope, because if not, and this is just a one and done for her for now, and she's kind of going back to the back, and we just kind of move on to Ronda Rousey as a solo act and going like the Ronda Liv route. I'm gonna be kind of disappointed, to be honest with you guys, and rather surprised too, because I don't think it's a secret, the relationship and the journey and the story that Baszler and Triple H have, from the NXT days and everything like that, and seeing how she was displayed when what was it, 2019, when the main roster they had that delay and were kind of stuck in Saudi Arabia coming back from one of the shows over there. Obviously, I forget the name of it, but whatever. Crown Jewel, doesn't matter. Is one of, I think it was Crown Jewel. Whatever, guys. But the main roster, they couldn't get back. So and I still don't understand like why you would do that type of scheduling, have your crew and your talent come back from a flight that's like what, 15, 18 hours literally on the other side of the world, and then you expect them to be able to perform the next, like, literally like less than 24 hours later. Like, this is professional wrestling, guys. Like, this isn't just like a desk job, which is difficult in its own right, but let alone going out there and performing and putting on a show, an entertaining show, when you're most likely jet lagged, you're exhausted from the performance that you just put on and everything. Like, just traveling itself is exhausting. So it always surprised me that they set it up that way. Hopefully going forward, just for the talent's sake, that they do something to kind of switch up that schedule. I don't think us as fans will die if we have a pre-recorded show, or not necessarily a best of show. Just if you pre-record something like you did for this week, for instance, like if you do a double header of SmackDown the week prior and just tape it, like, I don't know. But that's a whole nother topic when we get closer to one of those shows. But again, with all that being said, I'll admit I was wrong. I put my pick on Shayna. I was very surprised that Liv pulled out the victory here, but I will say that she looked great. Liv looked very good in this match. I think the journey and the fight that she showed here was very believable, and it made you, even if you aren't like a fan of hers and you wanted Baszler to win, it made you kind of respect her victory. And I think if you're going to keep the title on her and you want to build on her going forward, you needed to give her a clean victory like this and a solid victory over Shayna. Because, yeah, even though Shayna hasn't been built up and positioned in the strongest light herself, she's still a badass fighter, right? Like, her being her has credibility. And I think having Liv Morgan beat someone like Shayna Baszler and retain her title and beat her in the fashion that she did, I think it said a lot. So again, the match itself, it was good, and there was a lot of reversals, I think, which I was really surprised of, in a lot of like actual wrestling holes. And I think it was cool because during the week they had showed that Liv Morgan had been working and training with Matt Riddle, got his first name back, in the days leading up to the match itself too, because obviously Riddle is from the MMA world, so to kind of get like more experience on reversals and how to get out like the armbar and shit like that. So I think that was cool, and I like that, and I like that tie-in. I like that. I believe it was Cole. So again, shout out to Cole. I like that tie-in and that call out there. So again, just little things like that. Like, it's not a big deal, but it just helps, right? And it just adds a lot to the show. But again, with that being said, again, officially, Liv Morgan did retain her title via pinfall in about 11 or so minutes there. But again, like, they had a shitty position of trying to follow the Gunther and Sheamus match before them. So again, no envy from that. To be in that position at all. My dog just got up from her nap, so she makes her appearance over here. Sorry, guys. But moving on here, the next matchup on the card, we had our tag team match, Rey Mysterio and Edge teaming up against the Judgment Day, which is Finn Balor and Damian Priest, of course, being accompanied to the ring by Rhea Ripley, and Dominic Mysterio accompanied his father and Edge, of course. The entrance for Edge was something else. Dude you would have thought he was born and raised in Cardiff, Wales, first of all. Like, fucking, like, the reaction and the response that he got, and it was more prominent when he was in the ring and they were kind of slowing the music down or just like lowering the music down, right, and kind of like ending his like official entrance, and you could hear the fans like just continue. I mean, obviously you couldn't not hear them, but you could see the love and just the admiration and the respect and the excitement that they had for Edge being there, and it was kind of like I'm very like that was not what I was expecting, at least, and that magnitude. Like, you would have thought that Ray was like some new guy, or not Ray Mysterio, like with the love that Edge was getting, and again, like, not, not discrediting it or anything like that. It's just next level, and I think that really stood out to me. But backing up a little bit, Edge, when his music first played and he came running down the aisle, he had a lucha mask on, which was something else. And part of me wonders, which I'll kind of pin that in the board, but it makes me wonder if that was done strategically, storyline wise, and if it's going to get referenced in the future. So again, I'll kind of reference that in a second, but again, man, the reaction for Edge was next level, like to the point where Edge kind of Ray kind of had to take a step back and kind of just like lean and chill in the turnbuckle in the corner area to just kind of like let the fans have their moment, let Edge embrace it. So yeah, it was pretty cool, and shout out to the fans over there. Y'all really showed up and showed out. So, and it was a very good show. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Which, besides certain things and the ending, which we'll get to obviously, but this tag match was good. Like, this match was really good. Like, there was Damian Priest like stood out to me more than anything else. Obviously we'll get to the ending, but as far as match goes, like, Damian Priest and Edge really stood out to me more so. And I'm not clamoring for a rematch, a one-on-one rematch, but I'd love to see Damian Priest and Edge run it back again, because man, there's just something about it. Like, and of course, like, there was one moment where Damian Priest was standing on the outside of on the apron on the other side of the ropes, and Edge, and he was I think he was trying to do something Mysterio. I'm not sure if he was trying to do like a German suplex or something off of to Rey Mysterio off of the apron, but he was still trying to do something, and Edge came from the other side of the ring and did the spear right through the middle of the ropes, cleared it, just beautiful. Obviously made an impact with Priest, took him to I don't know if they made it all the way to the barricade, but beautiful. So perfectly well done. Like, to think that Edge wasn't even wrestling, 3 years ago? And if us as fans, if we would have been told that, excuse me, that Edge would have been back, like, I don't think any of us would have believed. But with that being said, again, excuse me, guys, the match itself, looking back on it, I think I loved it more now because of the ending and the aftermath of what happened. But I love the fact that too that Rhea Ripley and Dominic really didn't play that much of a factor in the match itself until the end. Yes, we did have a couple moments here and there, but it wasn't the determining factor, right? Like, it wasn't the end all be all for the match itself. I was surprised that officially for the outcome of the match here, Rey Mysterio and Edge did pick up the pinfall victory here, with Edge hitting a spear on Finn Balor for the 1-2-3. There was a moment in the match too where Edge actually hit a 619. I think that was on Priest, if I'm not mistaken. But bro, like, if he again, I never would have expected to see Edge hitting a 619, and it wasn't the prettiest, but bro, like, it was very, very well done. So kudos to Edge. He's a big dude to be doing something like that. Because he's deceivingly tall. Like, I don't think people really like realize how tall he is. So again, shout out to him, and it shows his athleticism and everything like that. So, of course, the main point and talking point coming out of this whole segment here was what happened after the match, which I am a huge fan of. Wasn't exactly what I was hoping for going into it, but I think we may get to it in the future, but I love the beginning. I love chapter 1, and I love the starting point that we're at. So after the match, we had, of course, Edge and Rey Mysterio celebrating their victory in the ring. They were just celebrating, nothing too crazy, nothing, but it was, you kind of knew something was up because they were kind of dragging it out, like, okay, like, let's, like, move to the back, let's get going, right? And Dominic was kind of there, just kind of like staring he was inside the ring with him as well, and just kind of like gazing and just kind of looking from afar. He just kind of had a look to him, right? Just kind of looked a little distant. All of a sudden, he kind of looks at Edge. You kind of get the vibe, like, okay, he's gonna congratulate Edge. He's gonna give him props for the victory. But no, he looks at Edge and gives him a kick right in the nuts. And the best part of this was the look on Edge's face. Perfect camera view, just perfect still, perfect everything. Edge, the second Dominic kicked him in the nuts, Edge looked right at Dominic, and the look in Edge's face was just of like, how could you? And it was almost like his own son was turning his back on him and kicking him in the nuts, right? Like, it was just so beautiful. Like, just it was almost in slow motion, right? Like, if you haven't seen it, you got to see it, even if it's just like a GIF or whatever. You got to see the sell that Edge does. Rey loses his mind. He's like, Dominic, what are you doing? He starts speaking to him in Spanish. He looks at him. He's like, why? What are you doing? All of a sudden, Dominic just lariats the fuck out of Rey. Gives him such a brutal clothesline. Like, bro, like, I don't know about you guys, but like, you gotta think, like, I don't want to say that's every kid's dream, right? Because that sounds weird, but it's like, if you are a kid and you're working with your family, right, and like you have an opportunity, you're wrestling, you have an opportunity to do something like this and to, like, I don't know, maybe it sounds weird, but it's just like fun, like whatever. That's what they say of like best friends, or like any like pent up frustration or anything like that. Like, obviously don't go out there and like try to like decapitate your father with your clothesline, right? But like, go out there and like make sure it looks real and snug, right? I'm just saying, looked at him, just trying to make sure, just trying to play the part, right? Just trying to play the part. But Dominic lariated, like clothesline. I don't know how to say lariated past tense, but clothesline did the most brutal lariat on Rey Mysterio that you could have imagined. It was just so beautiful. And what was so great after that, of course, Edge is still down, right, from the kick in the nuts. Rey is obviously on the mat at this point, but then we get a camera shot of the Judgment Day in the far right turnbuckle corner of the ring, just laughing their ass off, just enjoying the fuck out of what's happening. And then when I was kind of frustrated, though, the aftermath of Dominic and the sell job of Dominic, the camera kept cutting off of him and kept cutting back to like the shocked reaction of the fans, Rey Mysterio, Edge, like everyone but Dominic. It's like, let me see Dominic. Let me see how he's reacting. Let me see if he's questioning himself. Let me see if he's proud of himself. Like, let me see him. Like, let me just focus on him. Like, yes, you need to see the other guys selling it and everything like that, but we get it. Like, they're already down. Like, Rey Mysterio's beside himself. Like, he's more emotionally hurt than physically hurt. Like, we get it. We got that. Like, let me see Dominic. So, then there was like at one point in the ring where the camera was just stuck on Edge and Rey for what felt like 15-20 seconds, and I was just like saying like out loud, like, please let me see Dominic, like change the camera. Like, maybe I was the only one that noticed that or was bugged by that, but I was just like, bro, like just change it, like let me see Dom. But that was the thing. Like, the fans were pissed. The fans hated what Dominic did. He hated that he turned on Rey Mysterio and, of course, Edge. Probably more so Edge, but it seemed like with the love that he got there. But they were despising Dominic. They fucking hated his guts. And I love the couple shots that we did see of Dom. He ripped his shirt off. He just had a disgusted and pissed off look on his face. He was kind of like taunting the fans, like what, like like egging them on. And I was blown away, like at that early sign, and that's why I was so frustrated that we couldn't see more of it, because and maybe we will see it in the conference that they had right after the PLE itself, which I think is cool that they're doing. They're having like a press conference with some of the wrestlers right after the show itself, which I think is really cool, what AEW does. So whether they got that idea from AEW or whatever, I'm glad they did. I'm glad they stole that idea from wherever, and they're utilizing it. I haven't obviously seen it yet, but I'm definitely gonna probably turn that on after I finish recording here and wrapping it up here. But this again, it's a thread and it's a reason to turn into Raw on Monday night. So I'm all here for it. And if you're not gonna open Monday Night Raw with Drew or Roman, I would open with Dom. As crazy as that sounds, I would fucking open. I mean, maybe you should open it with Bailey, right, or something like that. But shit, maybe I just fucking like if and not have him go out there and have a 5, 10, 15-minute promo by himself. I say you have him come out there, you have him open the show, let him get serenaded with the hate and the booze, have him stand out there maybe for 1, 2 minutes, like kind of soaking in the heat, hopefully like egging the fans on, and then have him start to say whatever he's going to say, right? Maybe have him say like a couple lines, and then he gets cut off by the Judgment Day. And then all those 3 members come out, and then that's an excuse for him not to have to hold an entire segment. But he gets to come out there. He kind of gets to start the show. We get to solidify this was a big deal. So, and again, that just depends on how hard you want to push Dominic going forward and how serious you want to take this. And maybe starting the show isn't the proper position. Maybe do it in like the segment after that, or what have you. Or maybe going into like the 9 or 10 o'clock hour. Maybe the 10 o'clock hour would be a little bit better since 9. I don't know. I'd have to think about it a little bit more. It was just kind of a thought that initially popped in my head right now, but I don't know. Like I just something about it and something about him just being so like okay with being the bad guy and being oddly comfortable with it. I liked it. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see, but I'm here for it. And if he's gonna continue to grow the hair out in that way with that style, he's gotta do something and be a bad guy because that shit's just strange. And it kind of reminds me of like the Eddie Guerrero days, like when he was Latino Heat early in WWF, which I don't know if he's going for, but he did dress up as Eddie Guerrero, an homage to Eddie. I think it was at WrestleMania him and Ray did. So it kind of makes sense. But I mean, if you want to go Latino Heat in China, I'm not saying a couple relationship, but him and Rhea, just saying. But after that, we did get the official, excuse me, the official attendance was announced for 62,296, which is damn impressive. Shout out to, again, all you guys over there. Happy for you guys. And I hope you all had a good show, Joe. I think I said that earlier, but again, it's been a shit ton of years since you all have had like an actual event of this magnitude, especially over there. And I would fucking love to see a WrestleMania over there. There was a sign that had referenced WrestleMania being either in the, I don't know specifically where, but I think it said like the UK or like, I don't know if it said like the UK or if it's specifically say London, but I don't know. I saw bring WrestleMania 2 and I was like, yeah, bring it over there. Like, why not? Like, obviously you can't do it next year, maybe not the year after, but I would say within the next 3-5 years, I don't see a reason not to, But after that, we had Seth Rollins versus Riddle. Seth Rollins' entrance gear, get up. He came out. I think it was kind of like a call out to Elton John, hit like the flamboyance, which would not surprise me. It kind of makes sense, obviously being over there. I could be off on that, but it was just something about the flamboyance of him, and it's not surprising with Seth, right? But it was just something about the whole, and the sunglasses too. I'm pretty certain it was Heart sunglasses. So there's just something about that. I was just like, okay, like I think I know what you're going for. And again, I just love it. I love it. But Riddle came out and made his way on his scooter again. Pretty much the same Riddle that we had always seen, entrance wise. Once Seth had made his way to the ring and completed his entrance, that's when Riddle kind of was getting antsy and kind of ready to get things going and then kind of showing the fire at that point. But this match was brutal. This match was rough. And there was, before I kind of move on here, there was of course, you guys have probably heard at this point, Ariel Helwani had done a sit-down interview with Triple H. I think it dropped on Thursday, I believe. Maybe it was on Friday. Pretty certain it was Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. Just amazing interview. So insightful, so well done. So shout out to Ariel for that. But man, like, so you really hear what Triple H went through and how close he was to not making it. which was pretty emotional, right? And how and how choked up he gets every time talking about it. And then he brings up certain points. I mean, of course you've seen like the AEW shit, but he got, like a little personal too, and he brought up the moment when Stephanie got the phone call to step in as chairwoman when they were on their way to the lake house, and she was like, oh, well, because that was right this obviously, at the start of her leave of absence that she needed, and she was trying to take time off from the year that they just went through together as a family. And she was going out there, they were going out there to clear their minds, just kind of chill the fuck out. And then she gets this call, and he had mentioned, she was like, okay, well, can I take a little bit of time to think about it and then get back to you? And he said that they had told her, yeah, but essentially, like, we need to know, like, now. So I think they completed their drive to their lake house. Not sure how long it was, and then she obviously accepted it, and the rest is history. But just crazy. But I bring all that up because to say Ariel did that one, and then he also did one with Seth Rollins as well. And Seth Rollins had mentioned, I haven't heard that one yet, haven't had an opportunity to, but Rollins mentioned the kind of real life beef that him and Matt Riddle had. Apparently, Riddle's wife had body shamed Becky at one point or something to that effect. There's body shaming. It's somewhere. So there was like a legit, like real drama and beef and hostility between those two guys. So that kind of adds like another layer to it. And then, of course, the promo that we had on Raw with Seth saying what he did about Riddle getting divorced and his kids and all that stuff. So this match was kind of what you thought. Like they were going to kind of do things to not hurt each other, but things that you would kind of expect, right? If someone's like really pissed off at the other guy, like a lot of curb stomp attempts, things like that. Just the shots that Riddle were taking to Seth looked a little bit more stiff, looked a little bit more solid, and obviously that was done on purpose, right, to play into the whole vibe and the whole scenario going into it. So I think that was so well done. But I will say, I was very surprised that Rollins got the victory here. Seth Rollins ended up picking up the pinfall in a little over 17 minutes. Riddle, and the route that they were going with was because at one point Riddle was down in the ring, and Rollins was kind of screaming at Riddle saying, this is what you deserve, this is why your wife left you, and kind of just like bullshitting him and just kind of talking shit. Riddle got fired up as a result, but Rollins cut Riddle off with a kick to the face. He set up for the DDT, Randy Orton's DDT, and that was something else that Rollins was trying to do throughout the match as well, kind of doing like little callbacks to Randy Orton to kind of get into the mind of Riddle as well. So it's just, Seth is just so brilliant at what he does. And between that and just entertaining, or not entertaining, but interacting with the crowd and getting them to sing his entrance as much as he can, just to kind of fuck with Riddle even more. So well done. So well done. But at one point, Riddle had slammed Rollins' head onto the commentary table, and that's where things kind of got a little dicey for Riddle. Riddle tried to hit Rollins with a chair, but Rollins moved and ran into the ring. Riddle followed him, but Rollins hit him with the stomp. Rollins went to the second rope again and then hit Riddle with another stomp, landed it for the victory, and that's when he got the pinfall. So essentially ended the match due to the fact that Riddle couldn't contain his emotions, right? And that Riddle was so worked up and just so like off his rocker, right? And just so pissed off that he was focused on going in there and just beating the shit out of Rollins with the chair. Rollins saw the opportunity, capitalized on it, gave him one stop, went to the second rope, hit him with the second stop, got the pinfall victory there. So again, I'm surprised that, and again, I was wrong with my prediction going into it, but I'm happy that they gave it to Rollins. I'm happy that they went that route. I'm happy that Rollins got the victory that he needed. I think they said it was sometime since, or like it was January since Rollins had gotten his last victory, which is just insane to think about. But being said, guys, again, just looking over my final notes here, I don't think that there's, part of me wonders if, because this match would make total sense going to Extreme Rules, right? But part of me wonders if you want to just rehash this and bring it back up, or if you want to just have Rollins get the victory here and kind of move on. I don't really know what both guys would do at this point, but I'd be intrigued to see that. But part of me thinks that we're going to run this back at Extreme Rules, just due to all the bullshit that they've been saying to each other and the extreme nature that they had taken their feud already, which just kind of makes sense. But again, I don't know, because Riddle kind of lost clean here. Riddle lost because he couldn't handle his emotions. So that being said, moving on, guys, we are at the main event. Thank you guys again so much for checking out the show and listening, downloading, subscribing, all that good stuff. You can follow the show on Twitter at @KickashPodcast_. You can follow me on Twitter at ASHMANNS. We do have a TikTok page at Kickash Podcast. Gonna try to obviously do more video streaming, which if you are seeing this, then I did release it to the public, to the wild. So if not, maybe in the future. This is kind of a test run. Hopefully the audio sounded good. I'm going to keep this, no issues there. But if not, we'll see how tomorrow goes with All Out. But yeah, guys, like I said, I appreciate you guys for following, checking out, and supporting the show. It's really cool to see it grow and to see where you guys listen from and things like that. So, and hear feedback too. So again, shout out to you guys and appreciate the love. But the main event is finally here. We had our WWE Undisputed Universal Champion Roman Reigns facing off against the hometown hero Drew McIntyre. Bro, like everywhere had you were either on the side that Roman is gonna win or Drew was gonna win. I really didn't see any type of, oh well, it's, I could see it kind of going either way. It's like, for me personally, I'll say, so for instance, like my brain was like, no, it's Roman, but kind of watching the videos, for instance, and the hype, and then seeing the Broken Dreams video, and then just all the love and the support and the outpouring of love that Drew was receiving, and just the reaction that he got in the arena, I was like, oh my God, like how can he not win? Like how can they not, like, so my heart wanted Drew to win for the whole story, right? I'm not going to get into it because we obviously know at this point. So yeah, I was torn at that point. Like as I was watching it, especially that Broken Dreams video, especially just seeing that in the journey and the recap, and just showing like his growth and him growing as like an individual, and just seeing the progression of him over the past 15, 18, 20 years, which is very cool to see. So that's what I was like, it makes it, that was when I truly questioned, like, okay, like for me, like, are they really going to put it on Drew? Because it still didn't feel right. Like it's one of those things where you should do something, but it isn't like you don't want to type thing. You know what I mean? Like, you probably should have put it on Drew because it was the feel good moment. Everything on paper was just like you could mark it off, and it was just like perfect. But going forward in the long-term booking and the long-term story is Roman. And that's why I was on the side and with the fans that like, no, Roman's retaining. Like, and that's why me too. I was kind of surprised that so many people were on the Drew camp, and just like so certain that he was gonna win. And again, maybe there was more of like a emotional tie-in, but I don't know. Like I'm very happy and I'm very proud and very surprised that WWE stuck with the decision that they did. But just the first 5 minutes or so of the match itself, before they even really locked up, the crowd was just going bonkers. And just the moment and the electricity, it just really made you feel like it was like a throwback to, it's going to be crazy and it's going to sound crazy to say, but The Rock and Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18, and to think that the reaction and the emotion was getting to that level, was, you'd be like, oh, that's an extreme exaggeration, right? But no, like it was there, like it was damn near close, if not in a different regard, right, in a different respect and a different level, but very comparable is what I would say. And they soaked it up and they just ate it up. But to me, like, the second I saw Drew come out, the second he made his way like through the tunnel, and I saw his face, like his demeanor, I was like, man, something's just not right. Like something just feels off. Like he's just not winning it tonight. And nothing against him. Like that's just me, like reading maybe too much into a lot, as I do in general, right? But there's just something about him coming out. I was just like, I even told Elvis Escobar, shout out to Elvis and Into the Lab. I just told him, I was like, man, like, something doesn't feel right. And part of me was like, and he even said too something to the effect of like, you wonder if it's just the emotion overtaking him and him not knowing how to like handle everything and like really like intake everything, or is it the fact that he knows he is going to lose and everyone's going to be disappointed? Because there's a good amount of signs I said if Drew loses, we riot. Obviously there was no riot, but yeah. So again, without getting into hold for hold here, the main kind of story and angle that they were going into this as well was that Roman was alone. This was one of the rare times that we see Roman Reigns alone. No Paul Heyman, no Usos, no Sami Zayn. So he was completely solo, pun intended for the future, which was a nice change. I liked it, but it was very jarring too. It was very strange to see him come out by himself. I do think his character is a character in a vibe where a stable does make him feel even more elevated. So I think going forward, I would like to have the bloodline around him. But man, like I loved seeing him solo as well. So with that being said, the match was hard hitting once it got going. Like it was very. I hate like saying stiff all the time, but man, like they just connected and Drew really. He really put forth the effort. He really, especially in the last 5 minutes, he really made you believe like, man, like there's a chance he may pull it out. There's a high chance that he may pull it out. But towards the end, there was a couple moments where they went outside and towards the end sequence here, they had before I get to that, throughout the night we saw Tyson Fury at ringside as well. So Tyson Fury, I believe, had posted a video on Twitter or whatever saying that he was going to be at the event. So it was no surprise. He was ringside right near the commentator's table. So they showed him a couple times. I think maybe definitely two, if not more times than that throughout the show. So seeing him during the main event match was no surprise. Both Drew and Roman Reigns are down. All of a sudden, we hear A-Town down, which we know what that means. Austin, he is Austin. He does have a first name. Austin Theory. Brought his own referee, the Money in the Bank briefcase, made his way down, was running. Because it wasn't too terribly long, but it was a nice size, nice length entrance way that they had there. But I loved how close the fans were too, and I love the different layers of it as well. And you could see it when Edge had made his entrance a couple matches back. You know how he runs to each side. I love seeing the layout and just the rows of fans that they had. So it was really cool. It was a really cool variation and really cool lineup. So pun intended there too. But with that being said, Austin Theory made his way down and he followed his referee to the timekeeper's area where that little square is, where the timekeeper and the ring announcer sit. And where they hold the titles and all that bullshit. So he goes over there. He's telling his referee like, all right, I'm ready to cash in my briefcase. All of a sudden, Tyson Fury gets up, wails, knocks the fuck out of Austin Theory, bro. Like it was so good. It was such a good, solid shot. Like I don't know how that shit felt, but that shit looked like it hurt. So Theory was knocked the fuck out. Needless to say, homeboy did not end up cashing in the briefcase, but if we just see him on every PLE at this point, just coming out and making an attempt to cash in the briefcase, or every time there's a championship match and he gets knocked the fuck out before he can, I'm here for it because that shit's just so entertaining. But again, that being said, the referee was still down at this point, or the original referee, Charles Robinson, was down. Theory's referee made his way back inside. Both guys were kind of exchanging blows. There was a point where they were just exchanging punches and just forearms, just back and forth, back and forth. They got to their feet, continued to hit more punches. Reigns landed a Superman punch. McIntyre came back with a spear. McIntyre led the crowd into the countdown to hit the Claymore, but right as the referee was going to count 3, Solo Sikoa broke it up. Reigns hit a spear on McIntyre in the ring. Roman Reigns gets the 1, 2, 3. So, guys, Solo Sequoia, if you're not sure, if you're not familiar with that name, he is the third Uso. He is the younger brother. I believe he's, 29, 30 years old, of the Usos. He has been in NXT, one of the standouts from there. One of the guys that has been kind of just pegged and just a matter of time type thing for being called out or called up to the main roster. And this was just perfect. It just made perfect sense. You had going into it, you weren't. The whole story was Roman is by himself, right? Like, how is Roman going to retain and continue his reign going forward? He wasn't alone. He was Solo. He has Solo right in his back pocket. So I think that was dope. I love the finish. They ended up going a little over 30 minutes there. The crowd was not happy though at all. And this was kind of odd to me. So after the victory here, Roman Reigns stood up, pretty much got his title and walked to the back with Solo. They didn't really do much. They didn't do much of a celebration. Tyson Fury did come into the ring before Roman headed to the back, though, give him a handshake, which I was expecting something else. I was expecting either Roman to punch Fury, Fury to punch Roman, something. But they didn't. And maybe that's just the cynical in me. But yeah, like I don't know. Like it was just very strange to think that they just like Fury congratulated Roman and that was just it. And it was strange because he did that with Roman and then he literally just sang to Drew like 2 minutes later. Like it was so strange. Like it was something that you would see at the end of the show, like that only the fans in attendance see. Like you would normally see at like house shows and things like that. Not something that we actually see on TV that makes the air. So it was very strange to see. But Drew got up. Tyson was pretty much giving him pep talk, saying like, "Bro, like you did it. You did everything you could. We're proud of you. We love you. Like kudos to you, man. You shouldn't be ashamed of yourself. You should be proud." And then he went on to sing American Pie to Drew, and the fans sang along with him. It actually worked because the fans were booing the fuck out of the singing at first. They were not happy. They were not happy with what had just happened. They were not. It was such a quick transition too. Like Roman wins, they're pissed off. Fury and Roman shake hands in the ring. Roman makes his way to the back with Solo, and then all of a sudden they start singing American Pie. What? I'm sorry. Like, it was just very strange. Again, like, I'm not mad at it. It was just very strange. If I can nitpick, maybe like I would. Part of me is like, you're doing this so like he literally just lost the match. Like, it hasn't even been 5 minutes. Like, and you're singing to him and telling him, "Oh, you shouldn't feel bad." Like, yeah, you're like long term, you shouldn't feel bad, but right now I'm pissed. Right now I'm devastated. Right now I'm hurt. Like, let me be hurt. Like I just lost everything that I just worked for from however many years, almost 20 years at this point. Everything that we just watched that was built into this moment, he just lost. And you're literally telling me within 5 minutes, not to be upset and to sing. Like, to me, I get it. Too soon, bro. Like, I don't know, it was just kind of off to me. Like, if anything, I would have loved to have just had Drew. Like, if you feel like you do have to address the fans, have Drew cut that fire promo, but just kind of just leave it at that. But they sang American Pie, and excuse me, they did sing "Don't Look Back in Anger" as well. But yeah, it was a very strange ending after that. But man, guys, that I'm kind of just looking over, excuse me, the wrap up here. It's just, besides that weird ending, the match itself, the main event was very good. I'm very surprised still that they pulled the trigger on keeping the title on Reigns. I think there was so much pressure to put it on Drew that I was kind of worried that they would, but they didn't, and I'm very happy that they didn't, because I think the story here, and the story that I'm sticking with until I physically see Roman Reigns lose the titles, is that Cody Rhodes is going to dethrone Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Could be off, maybe not at WrestleMania if The Rock does end up coming back. And I think The Rock is obviously the big joker in this whole equation as well. But I think regardless of when it happens, Cody Rhodes is going to be the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns. I don't see it happening any other way, which is why I was so set on Roman retaining here. I think that first of all, it'd be dumb as hell if you have The Rock beat Roman Reigns for the title. So I'm not even going to entertain that. And I don't think they, especially with Triple H in charge, I don't see that happening. That's what makes me wonder, like, if Rock is going to be back at WrestleMania, are you going to want to have Roman freed up from the titles before then? Do you even want to have the titles in the play? Do you want to have him lose to you? But you don't want to have, to me, like, if and when Roman does lose, you want to have it at WrestleMania. So that's why I'm kind of like, man, like this whole Rock thing is, and it sounds crazy, but it's kind of in the way. Like I needed this to happen last year, so now we can move forward with Roman being the champion. Now we can move forward to Cody beating Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, solidifying a new bloodline going forward and going from there. Maybe not a new bloodline going forward, but like a new, like the family versus family thing. You know what I mean? But yeah, like I don't know, like we're still way off from that. But until Cody is back, I don't see Roman being in jeopardy at all, unless they split up the titles and he loses like the WWE Championship. Then I could see him losing at that point. But at this point, I don't see them pulling the trigger until they're actually going to pull the trigger at this point. So yeah, and I just to kind of wrap it up there, I think when Cody does win, I think it gives the perfect rematch and the perfect return for your Seth Rollins feud. I think if depending on how far out in the year you're going to go, 2024 isn't too terribly far away. You would have a hell of a entry point for good old MJF to come in, and man, what story and what history and what promos we would have. But that's way, way, way far out. But again, guys, that was the WWE Clash at the Castle PLE. This is the review show. Thank you so much for checking out, listening, downloading, possibly viewing. Like I said, if I put out the video for the show that was done here today, but if not, tune in for the show. The next show is going to be the All Out pay-per-view review. That is the pay-per-view, not PLE. Don't know when that's officially going to drop. Most likely sometime on Monday. I don't know if I'm going to do one immediately after the pay-per-view. We'll see. But again, thank you guys so much for checking out this show here. Follow, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And check me out tomorrow. Peace, guys.